Hey, everybody out there listening where you can hear me. My name is Dana Blair, and you are checking out WRUG Media.
Ladies and gentlemen, fans of WRUG, this is your boy XP, and we back at you again with Inside Tastemakers. Now, Inside Tastemakers allow our readers to journey into some of the hottest professions and lives of entrepreneurs that influence the culture on a daily. Inside Tastemakers are individuals who have a unique strategy for branding, career management, advancement, as well as online and offline communications. Today we are speaking with Ms. Dana Blair. She is a sought-after media personality, and she is currently the host of Essence Live. How you doing, Ms. Blair?
That was like an amazing interview. Intro. I'm like, oh, who is that? Thank you so much for that. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Well, it's easy because you do what you do. Now, let's jump right into it because I got a lot of things I want to cover. The fans have some things that they would love to learn from you, and I'm sure you're going to give them some great advice. So what jump-started your career as a media personality?
I came into it the back way, if you will. I'm originally from Alexandria, Louisiana, which is a fairly small city in central Louisiana, and I was a dancer. I trained classical ballet, modern, tap, and jazz, and all of that. And I came to New York on a dance scholarship. So that's how I got out of Louisiana and over here to the East Coast. And I danced for a while, and then after an injury and my father telling me that my spending habits did not match the occupation. I'm so sorry about that background noise.
That's okay.
So sorry. It just clicked on its own. I apologize. So then after my father told me that my spending habits didn't match the occupation that I chose, that I needed to go back to school. So I went back to school and got my master's, my MBA in marketing. And I did marketing for a long time, and I just concentrated on the area that interested me most, which was fashion and beauty. And I was in marketing at A&E Television, and I actually was full-time at Essence many years ago as a senior marketing manager handling their integrated marketing account for fashion and beauty. Then I went to Vogue, which was a dream come true for me, and Complex. So I've had a pretty robust background in media, about 10 years in media. And while launching another entrepreneurial venture, I went back to freelancing, which just gave me the flexibility to do what I wanted to do in terms of focusing on my own side hustles, if you will. You have more flexibility as a freelancer versus a traditional 9-to-5er, if you will. And I heard about the Timing Family and Essence in particular trying to grow their video platforms. And I was like, oh, so you're trying to do a live show? Is that's what's happening right now? And I threw my name in the hat, basically, and I had to do screen tests and things of that nature, along with whomever else they may or may not have spoke with. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I was a marketing girl. And though I have like a big personality in the office and I'm kind of goofy, that doesn't necessarily mean that would translate into something somebody would want to watch. And I knew there were other folks that were interested. So I did my auditions, if you will, and networking kind of like everybody else. And a year later, here we are.
That's what's up. Now, what kind of advice would you give our audience on how to position your brand as a media personality?
And you know what, I get this question a lot, and I say, because I've been on both sides of it. So my marketing background, when you're in integrated marketing, a lot of times you're coming up with concepts that live across all platforms. So print, digital, experiential, meaning an event, whether it's VIP or with consumers, lots of video content, social media, and oftentimes you're challenged with aligning an advertiser with a blogger, an influencer, a personality. And so from being on the marketing end, I know how to look at it a little bit differently, I'd say, than traditional talent. And I think what's most important is consistency. You can't say you are about women's empowerment and my sister, or whatever, and uplifting women, and then there's videos of you on YouTube pee-popping on a table and somebody's throwing dollars at you. There's nothing wrong with either one. There's nothing wrong with either one. But I'm saying you have to be consistent with your message that you're putting out there. We're in the era of digital and social media where technically nothing's secret. You know what I mean? And so So you can't say you stand for one thing and then put out there that you're doing something else. The message that you're sending to the people that you're trying to reach is mixed. So that to me is the most important thing. That, as well as ask questions. You're a brand, but ask questions to other people who are doing it that you admire and respect. How did they get there? What are they doing? I think oftentimes we're so competitive that we don't take the time to ask questions, and that's where you can avoid making many mistakes. By knowledge is power.
Exactly. So this brings me to my next point, and this is something that I kind of work on myself. So how important are strategic partnerships? And tell us about some of your strategic partnerships and how it's helped take your brand to the next level.
Strategic partnerships are extremely important, and I think the key word to focus on is strategic. Don't just align yourself with someone A, because they're your friend, or B, they have a lot of social media followers. It may not necessarily be the right fit for you. Being strategic, for example, and I know I'm like really crazy with analogies, but I feel like it kind of helps paint the picture if I'm not articulating something properly. If I'm a cake company, I'm not going to align myself with another baking or cake company, but I might align myself with a cake mixer company. You know what I mean? You have to think about expansion long-term and short-term, and I think it's very, very important to focus on strategic. What do I want from this relationship? What do I bring to the table? Because you don't always want to build one-sided relationship. That's not healthy in terms of long-term business. So what do I want from this relationship? What do I bring to the table from this relationship? How is it going to help me grow my bottom line? And your bottom line might be dollars if you're selling a product, or it might be, PR, whatever it may be. I think strategic partnerships are very important. And I think also, too, when you approach strategic partnerships, think outside the box. Think outside the box. For me, a partnership I did, this was late last summer, early fall, was with Samsung, which was a great partnership for me. I was training for the New York City Marathon. And I'm not necessarily the most tech-savvy person in the world, but they have a really great product that it made sense because I'm training for the New York City Marathon, and they have this watch, the Gear S, that can help you with your workout programs and things of that nature. So it benefited me in terms of aligning. Yes, Samsung's a huge powerhouse of a brand. It benefited my personal life, and then it also exposed me to a different audience, and a different audience was exposed to me as well. And two other women who were featured in the series, Issa Rae, who, of course, needs no introduction, and Angela Simmons the same. It was great to align myself with women of that caliber as well. So you have to step back and just focus on being strategic. How does this make sense? Why does this make sense?
Okay. So what are 3 key things or moments that you can attribute to your success thus far?
Ooh, like game changer moments, if you will.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, that's so difficult. For me, one moment that I can think of specifically is that I'm all about progression. I'm all about moving forward. So for me, it was really difficult to go back to Essence as a freelancer. And I felt like I was taking a step backwards because, damn, Dan, you were a senior marketing manager here 3 years ago, full-time, on big accounts, handling big projects. Now you're back freelancing. And I was freelancing, and granted, I was working on, my focus wasn't necessarily like trying to grow in the company. It was trying to launch this other business. You know what I mean? But it kind of screwed with my mind a little bit, like, are you taking steps backwards? Are you really moving forward? But in actuality, it was a huge blessing because if I would not have been back freelancing, then I wouldn't have been in the office. I wouldn't have been in the space to hear about Essence Lab, and I wouldn't have found what I feel like I'm meant to do. And so for me, that was a huge lesson in terms of sometimes when you feel like you're taking steps backwards or you feel like a wall has been put up in your path. You never know. It might be the universe trying to steer you into the right direction, into what you're meant to be doing. So sometimes you have to go with the flow. That I have to say, within the last 2 to 3 years, that's the biggest thing for me. A second moment would have to be learning how to trust my gut when I'm on camera and when I'm interviewing and speaking to different people. And I'm really big on doing your research and knowing who's in the room. When I mentioned I grew up in Alexandria, Louisiana, and when I was growing up, my father always told me I reminded him of a woman named Stephanie Fredericks. And I'm like, okay, Dad. And he's like, no, she's from here. She's from Alexandria. Her family's from here. She's now a journalist. She's traveling the world. She's doing great things. I know she's now in L.A. She's a friend of the family, blah, blah, blah. But I never met her. I'd met her family members, but I never met her. And ironically, when Best Man Holiday came out, I'm on Facebook, and I saw she popped up in my feed. Like one of the trade magazines, movie film magazines, did a story about how 2 girls from Alexandria, Louisiana, who were close friends, swore they would always make it out of Alexandria, and they went their separate ways after high school, and 15 years, 20 years passed, and now they've reconnected, and they found each other at the table read for Best Man Holiday kind of situation. And that was my first time ever seeing a picture of Stephanie. And I was like, all right, I'm going to friend request her. I'm going to reach out to her. I'm going to memorize her face. That's what I told myself. Fast forward 2 months, I'm at the Beverly Hills Hotel for Black Women in Hollywood with Essence. And I walk into the lobby, and I see the face, and I'm like, I know that woman. I think that's her. And she's talking to Spike Lee, and after she spoke to him, I walked to her and said, excuse me, Miss Frederick. And I said, you don't know me. I said, but my name is Dana Johnson, which is my real name is Dana Johnson. That's Blair is my middle name. And I said, I'm from Alexandria, Louisiana, and my family is so-and-so. And she's like, oh, my God. And she gave me this big hug. And I was like, I told her the same story I told you. My whole life I've heard about you and how amazing you are and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, she was working that same day on the Light Girls documentary for OWN, and that's how I got in that documentary. So
wow.
if I would have never paid attention, sometimes our friends, our mentors, the universe, they're trying to tell us things, and paying attention and knowing who's in the room and saying, oh, this is her, I'm going to pay attention in case our paths ever cross. And they did. And look at how it benefited me. So those are my aha moments and those lessons I'm learning as I mature as a person as well as in this industry. You have to pay attention. You have to know who's in the room, and you have to ask questions. Right. I know I'm long-winded, but.
Oh, no. You're giving some great advice. Definitely, and that's one thing that I'm learning more and more as I climb this ladder of trying to get to the top of the media ladder is learning to not be afraid to ask those questions. You know, I always heard in school the only dumb question is the one that doesn't get asked, and a lot of times we let fear come in because, you know, when you're around a lot of people, some people might think a certain type of way if you ask that question, and so you kind of fall back a little bit. But I'm learning more and more that, hey, if you see an opportunity, ask that question. The person's either going to answer it or they're going to say no. So you always got a 50-50 chance. So, so with all the knowledge that you have regarding media and marketing, if someone was starting from the bottom, let's say they started from scratch, they're saying, hey, I want to jump in this media thing, want to give it a try. What things can they do to avoid having to basically, I will say, waste so much time trying to figure things out? What could they do to maybe cut some of the time?
I don't think there's any such thing as cutting corners. I think that if you want to be in front of the camera, you need to learn everything that goes on behind the camera. And if you want to be behind the camera, you need to learn everything that goes on behind the camera and what it feels like to be in front of the camera. I don't believe in cutting corners. I think if you cut corners, you may achieve success, but how will you keep it? And what level of success will you achieve? When I was dancing and in the theater, we had to learn every aspect of the theater. We had to learn lingo for what the stage crew was doing, for lights, how to hang this, how to hang that, different terms in the costume department. It makes you a well-rounded person, and it makes you a well-rounded leader. You can't take direction from someone who doesn't know how to communicate to you. You could be a soldier all you want, but if your general doesn't know how to be a soldier himself, he's not really going to be an effective general. He can yell loudly, but he may not be the best leader, you know. And
right.
I think we're in an age where everybody wants it quick, fast, and in a hurry, and you got to take that Mr. Miyagi approach and step back and do the wax on, wax off. You have to start with the baby steps and really understand what you're trying to build. And I think at the same time, you might get in this media game, whether you're in front of the camera or behind it or however you want to do it, and you may look up one day and say, oh, shit, I don't want to do this. This is not for me. And that's something, and that if you will, that saves you time from wasting 15, 20 years doing whatever it is you may want to be thinking you want to do. The more you learn about something and get your hands dirty and figure out every aspect of it, you may feel like, you know what, this game is not for me. I don't like the politics, or I don't want to learn this, or you know what, I thought this would be fun, but it's not. I don't really believe in shortcuts. I believe in doing the work. If you know what, maybe you can't go out every Saturday or Sunday to the day brunch party. You may have to stay home and sit in front of your computer and research something, and it's going to pay off for you in the long run. You may have to sacrifice a few things to get to where you want to go, but I don't know. I don't believe it's in anything happening overnight. I don't think it's worth keeping. Even if you look at what's her name? Is it Amy Schumer, the comedian?
Uh-huh.
She did an interview, and she said she finds it fascinating that everyone calls her an overnight success. She said it took her 10 years to be an overnight success, 10 years of working the clubs and the comedy clubs and hustling and audition to be an overnight success. And now she's reached this extraordinary level where she could have had a quick hit 5-6 years ago and wouldn't know what to do with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's my answer.
So to all the people out there, definitely do not take any shortcuts. You know, hard work definitely pays off. You got to put in that work. Now, the celebrities you interview, and I saw this firsthand. Like I said, I'm a fan first. The celebrities that you interview, they seem so comfortable around you. What tips do you have for somebody who's maybe getting a start in doing interviews or becoming a media personality? How do you get the celebrities to feel so comfortable and kind of open up to get what you need out of them?
They're people, and I think that's the one thing you have to understand. Sometimes, and I try to take my understanding of people and human nature into an interview with me. You know, you have, say, for example, Nick Cannon. When I first interviewed Nick Cannon, he's huge. I have a lot of respect for him as a celebrity and as an entrepreneur and as a businessman. But when he came in, I just read in the blog a few days prior that he has some health issues, that he had been sick. So I took that into consideration, along with the fact that it's now 2 p.m. I saw him on the Today Show when I was fixing my coffee in my apartment. I know he's tired. I know he's not feeling his best, if you will, but he's a professional. So I try to take my human spirit into the room with me and try to have that consideration when I'm speaking to them before the camera turns on and so on and so forth. You know, you may have had a singer or an actress who just gave birth and she's exhausted. Or she may have to stop down, on tape and breastfeed or do something like that. These are people who are blessed to be able to do what they love and that are phenomenal at what they do. And I think you have to take into consideration they are human beings and show respect for them and their lives. And I think when you do that, I think you get a different response. I think you get a better response and show that I have respect for you, not only as a person. And I feel like that is what has helped me the most, you know. And then also, too, I like to joke around and poke fun and, you know, things like that. Yeah, I saw you at the such and such game. Oh, your team lost, huh? You know, like, I like to have those moments as well. Because I'm not here to attack. I'm not that person. And I think also it's important to communicate that I'm not an attacker. I'm not a gossip queen. You don't need to have your guard up with me in that regard. I wouldn't want somebody coming at me that way, so I'm not going to come at you that way.
Right.
I don't even know if that really answered your question, but that's kind of how I approach it.
No, it answers it perfectly, because that's kind of the approach that I decided to take when I decided to get into the media game. I didn't want to be another website or another media company that feels like we have to tear down a person just for some ratings or for some financial gain. I'm wholeheartedly believe in uplifting our people and kind of showing the positive side, because a lot of times there's a lot of celebrities that do great things and they don't really get the credit or the attention that's deserving for some of the things they do outside of the normal hustle and bustle of their career.
I completely agree. And also, too, down the road, when we're talking about being strategic and thinking long-term and short-term, somebody remembers how you treat them. They may not remember exactly how that interview went down. They may not remember exactly what you asked, but they'll remember how they felt. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you cross paths later on, and you will cross paths, because this, media and entertainment is very small, it's going to say a lot. It may or may not work with you down the road. So I think you have to take those things into consideration as well.
Right. Now, I hear this a lot of times from people, and like I said, those out there that's listening, I'm here in Memphis, Tennessee, so I hear this a lot. A lot of people give this excuse, well, I'm not in the right city or state to make it. Do you think what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a valid excuse for people to kind of keep using that as a crutch to say, my city don't support me, I'm in the wrong city, if I was in New York, I'd have it easier? Or
10 years ago, you probably could have said that, not now. With social media, with YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, because people are failing to remember, Twitter and Instagram and all that hasn't been around that long, Before the internet, before social media, I could have bought that. Not so much now. You have people in small towns in their basements making YouTube videos, getting discovered and signed to major deals. If you look at Issa Rae, who started filming Awkward Black Girl on her own and now has deals with HBO and books and partnerships with major networks. I don't really think that anymore. I do say, as someone who grew up in a small town, when you're in a bigger city, you're exposed to more. But it doesn't necessarily mean, because you have those folks, you have some folks who are in bigger cities who don't even take advantage of those opportunities. Like when I came to New York, the fact that Broadway was like a train ride away on a metro card was fascinating to me. It was even more fascinating to me how many people I went to school with who grew up in the New York tri-state area who never even went to a Broadway show. And I'm like, yo, it's right here in your backyard.
Right.
So I think you have to, if you are in a major city, you have to take advantage. I don't of what those opportunities and being exposed to different things and things of that nature. Like in Alexandria, I would have never known you could make a real career off of being a sound guy, off of being a lighting person, off of costumes. You can make a career out of this. And there's people who have substantial, amazing careers and portfolios off of these things because they are in a major city. So that I kind of get. But this day and age with social media and digital media, you may have to hustle a little bit harder, but it's totally torn down barriers. You can touch anyone in the world without even having to leave your apartment or your house or your bedroom or your kitchen table. That's amazing. You have to take advantage of it, though. Are you willing to put in those sweat hours? Are you willing to do the work?
Exactly. You definitely have to put in the work and understand, time management. That's important too, to understand, okay, if I'm putting too much time into this one thing and I'm not yielding the results, I may want to go back and kind of research and kind of re-strategize on and to find out maybe there might be something that I might be missing. You know, a lot of times some people.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, sweetie.
No, go ahead.
I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say you have to also surround yourself with people that are going to be honest with you. You may want to be a singer, and boo, you are not a singer. You might be a songwriter. You know, you might be a songwriter, but you're not a singer. And so I think it's important to surround yourself and ask other people and put yourself out there to see if this really is for you. You know what I mean? I want to be the next Beyonce, but child, I cannot sing. So that's not for me, you know?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then also, too, recently on the show, we had Jermaine Dupri, and he made some phenomenal points, and one of which I like to reiterate is that when you do have your opportunity, are you ready? Have you done the work to be ready? There's no such thing as luck. It's where preparation and opportunity meet. Some people call that luck, but no, you have to be prepared. And while he's on the show, he has a new reality show out where he's looking for the next young star. And so we had some viewers submit via social media their audition tapes, singing and or rapping, and we were going to play them for Jermaine Dupri. And one of the guys who I believe he was rapping, he was in his apartment or his home, and the sunlight in the window was coming in from behind, and where the camera was positioned, you could not see his face.
Wow.
The shadow, like the lighting in the room, you just could not see his face. And he was like, he's like, my man right here, he's like, Jermaine was like, his flow is not that bad. He said, but I can't see his face. He said, I can run into him on the street right now and have no idea who he is. Or he was just on a platform such as an Essence.com where anybody could have seen him and no one could see him. So going back to doing the work, how are you putting in the work? Working smart, working strategic, so that when your opportunity does come, are you really ready? And are you really maximizing that opportunity to the best of your ability?
Exactly. You know, that's and that's what kind of has helped me a little bit, is like being able to be spontaneous, like, because I can be at an event and there might be a celebrity that walk in and be like, hey, we got such and such, they got a new CD coming out, and boom, like on the fly, you got to be like ready to go. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this question, you know, because like I said, this is not just for the fans, this is like also for me too. I'm learning a lot. What are some of the things you do to prepare for an interview? Because you named some big names that you had the chance to sit down with.
I research. I research because honestly, I don't know all the big names. I don't watch a large amount of television or things like that. So I research everything, like, to try to find a point where I may be able to connect with somebody. So when Joe Morton came in, who plays Papa Pope, whom I love me some Joe Morton ever since he's the Senator Byron, on A Different World, I was researching what is he doing now. And oftentimes, too, like, your PR team will say, oh, we're here to talk about X, Y, and Z. But, you know, like, I research what they're doing now, what they may have done then, where did they grow up, where did they go to school, that kind of thing. And he actually went to a university that was considered like a theater rival, if you will, to my university. So, you know, kind of poking fun at that kind of helped warm things up. And it helps me mostly break the ice because I'm so nervous because this is such a talented actor. So I do lots and lots of research so that I'm as versed as possible on, I mean, and of course, you know, courtesy of the internet, everything's at your fingertips, on what they need to speak about. So if it's a show, if it's an album, if it's a clothing line, if it's a whatever, I know what they need to speak about. I know what I want to get out of it, and I can make that connection. So I just research.
Okay. And this is something else I kind of saw. You know, like I said, I'm a fan first, so I follow your work.
Thank you. That is so sweet of you. Thank you.
And one thing that kind of had me when I first started, I was kind of fearful of using cue cards. You know, I kind of thought that, you know, if there's some information, you got to memorize it, drill it in your head. So I would stay up for hours trying to memorize it like I was a rapper. who has to learn his lyrics for the next big show. But I'm starting to see that more and more people who do interviews, they do have notes in front of them. So what is your take on that aspect of it?
I love me a note card because sometimes you're bombarded with so much information, show network, share, air date, airtime, things of that nature. And the thing is this, when I do research on someone, I write out my questions, I kind of know the flow of what's going to happen. You know what I mean? I've prepared. So on my note card, I have the questions, and they're also in the prompter as well if I need to. But I don't personally don't like looking down at a card and reading the question. But I'll highlight keywords so that if I look down and I see newborn baby, I'll know, oh, so you just had a baby, congratulations, and I don't have to read the question verbatim. So it's a mixture of me seeing the keywords in case I need a quick reminder or a quick roadmap, but that coupled with the fact that if you've done your research on someone, it's almost like you know them, like they're your homie or something like that. So I can have a conversation with you about such and such and so and what you're doing now, and then I can look down and say, oh, and your show comes on such and such network, make sure you check it out, blah, blah, blah. And also, too, sometimes I've had where I'm walking into an interview and the PR person all of a sudden will say, oh, their new album just hit #1 and blah, blah, blah. Can you mention that? And I have to jot something down. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having a note card and those reference points at all. For me, it helps me to have like a bright color pen or a highlighter, and on my questions, I'll just circle or highlight 1 or 2 key words so that I know that if I glance down real quick, it'll help bring me back to where I need to be.
Okay. Last but definitely not least, what do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Like, what is Dana going to be doing?
In the next 5 years, Dana will be on major network television. I don't know if I'll still be in front of the camera. I'll be in front of the camera in some capacity, but I would love to produce a lot more of my own content. And I'd like to start arts programs in rural towns. I was blessed to have parents that were able to expose me to a lot. And
right.
And through dance, I found my way, if you will, and my world opened up. And I want to be able to give that experience to other youth in rural towns who may or may not be exposed to the arts, whether it's performing or visual, or may be exposed but may not know what to do with it. So
exactly. And definitely something that is needed more than ever, especially in the city that I'm in. We were fortunate for many years to have what is called a music commission, where it was a government-appointed board of 10 people, and their head director, she was a major force in the music industry. And what it did was it allowed local musicians the opportunities to showcase their music on 2 local radio stations. They got to perform at the Hard Rock Cafe, and they had so it was a lot of opportunities for artists. And now we're in a situation where their budget has been cut. And me being in the media, I'm trying to bring awareness to the fact that in a city where music is so rich in Memphis, when you got Stax, Al Green, we can't allow that to disappear. And I'm glad you brought the fact up that is something that you're interested in doing, is bringing the arts in rural areas. We need not let that die, because we're losing a lot of young people to the streets, gun violence, and there's a lot going on. And I know personally for me, music saved my life. I picked up an instrument and stayed out the streets. And so that's one of my goals as well, is to have that platform where young people can feel like I have a talent. There's some way for me to express that talent. So I definitely will be praying that much success to what you're trying to do, because we definitely need that.
You have to have something to pour yourself into. You have to. You know, you can't take away everything from kids or from youth, however you want to put it, and then say, now go be constructive on your own somewhere. You can't do that, you know. And there's so much being a creator, whether it's music, whether it's painting, whether it's dancing, whether it's acting. You pour yourself into it where you don't have time for other BS. You know what I mean? And it draws you to other like-minded people to where you now have a group of young minds that think just like you, and you don't feel alone, and you don't feel isolated, and you don't necessarily feel the need to go join the negative crowd. The show Project Runway Junior, I love that show. And if you look at the one-on-ones for all of the kids, they all say it's so nice to be with a group of kids just like me. There's others just like me. Where I'm from, there's nobody like me. And so I just, I think that's so sad when those programs are taken away, and then you have the powers that be looking down on kids saying, oh, you're doing the wrong thing, you're no good, you're this, that, and the third. But hell, you took everything away.
Right. Well, we're definitely going to make sure we do what we do to keep on keeping that word moving. I definitely appreciate you calling in. Fans out there, you got college one-on-one firsthand. Like, you got hands-on. Like, this is like the ITT tech of the media game. You're not just sitting in a classroom. You're talking to somebody who's still actually making major moves. So I would advise you, take this knowledge to heart. I know I did. I'm going to be hitting the rewind button, making my notes. I encourage you to do the same. And to you, Ms. Dana, I wish you much success and keep on doing them great interviews.